of all time in all of literature.
And that's a legitimate pick.
It is, like that's such an incredibly, iconic book.
Yeah.
So, anybody who discounts comic books, I think, is completely,
The same people who
naive.
discount video games.
We're calling you out, Roger Ebert.
Are we calling Roger Ebert out?
Well, yeah. He said that video games will never be considered an art form.
Yeah, wrong again, Bob.
Whatever.
Really?
Yeah, we're gonna have a talk about that. We're about geek culture being considered art, but that's not a discussion for today because we'll be here forever.
All right, the last thing that I want to talk about,
Okay.
the panel that I also sat through, which I'm so glad that I got to see, was a spotlight on Jim Lee. And basically what he did was he brought out a projector, some art supplies, and he just sat down on his own, and he started talking about his life, and he sketched some stuff for us. And Neil Gaiman was on right after he talked about Sandman, so he goes, I'm just going to sketch death really quick. And he drew the most beautiful picture of death I've ever seen in my entire life in about 10 minutes. And then he got people up from the audience to come up and ink it for him. And he showed us exactly how it works. And it was incredible. It was literally one of the best things I've ever seen.
Jim Lee is one of the most talented comic book artists.
Hands down,
of
without
this
a doubt.
generation.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was doing so many things at once. He was cracking us all up. He could be a professional comedian if he wanted to. The place was in a riot. And he was telling us about his life story. His family was all in the room, too. So every time the baby would cry, he'd be like, "Oh, it's okay, River. I'll be there in a minute." And it was so sweet. Oh, he was just great. Everything about it was great. He did 3 drawings. He did Death, he did the Joker, and then he did Superman. And he got fans from the audience to come up and ink them all for him. Then he gave them out to fans as well. And it was so, so good. And I'm so glad I got to see it in
Here's the
person.
unfortunate thing about Jim Lee. Jim Lee was paired up with, what's his name? Frank Miller,
Yep.
who has lost his mind. Really and truly he has. He did All-Star Batman and Robin. The art in that book is some of the best artwork I've seen in a very long time for comics. The writing is the equivalent of taking pig, swill, and, shoving, putting that in print. It is awful. Frank Miller does not know what he's doing anymore because he wrote a couple of good... He wrote a couple of good comics. He wrote Sin City. He wrote The Dark Knight Returns. And he wrote, I guess, 300 maybe. And then he's lost his mind. He cannot write good comics.
Can I just point out how great a movie Sin City was?
Sin City was beautiful.
It was one of the best movies I've ever seen. Seriously, genuinely. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Everybody hated The Spirit, too. I quite liked The Spirit, but that's okay.
That's interesting, yeah.
I loved it.
Did you see anything there you saw... so what was the Sandman... by the way, I got to give you back your comics.
Yes.
The Sandman panel. Any big news from that, or...
They showed us some artwork, and I took pictures of it before I knew I wasn't allowed, so I can show you those later. And it looks beautiful, by the way. It looks absolutely gorgeous.
Is it the same art style as the 1990s comics?
It's similar. I can't remember the man's name, and I feel really bad, but it's J.H. something. Jim, maybe Williams? J.H. Williams? He drew it, I believe. It looks beautiful. It's prequel, so it's about what Morpheus was doing right before he was captured, and how exhausted he was. And one of the things that they showed us was that Morpheus was drawn as a plant. And it was one of the most beautiful, incredible things I've ever seen because there was no face to it. It wasn't anthropomorphic in the slightest, and yet it was this large flower, and you knew it was Morpheus, and it was gorgeous.
Morpheus is Dream, essentially.
Dream, yeah, he's the main character.
I cannot... Hang on, we're gonna... Yeah, so, that... Anything else you want to mention before we go?
I guess the last thing that I'll mention was just, how amazing everybody I met was. I dressed up 3 out of the 4 days. I was Pixie from X-Men the first day, and I was Tonks from Harry Potter another day, and I was the 11th Doctor in girl form on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And then 2 of my friends as well were Girl 9 and Girl 10, and it was awesome. Just everybody was so nice to me. Everybody, and you hear a lot about Americans being rude. No, it wasn't like that at all. It was such a nice environment. Mm-hmm. I got stopped and asked for pictures. Everybody I stopped and asked for a picture was amazing. And just, there was such a sense of, shared, interest. Yeah. Everybody was there for the same reason.
You really don't get that in a lot of places. At least it seems to me, where you get so many different people from so many different backgrounds and so many different clicks. You get the
Yeah.
anime click, cosplay click, tabletop click, video game click, comic click,
Yeah.
TV click, movie click.
And even in those clicks, that's what interests me about those sort of clicks. Is like I remember just to give a video game example here. I remember there's this YouTuber Woody's Gamertag who plays a lot of video games, and he talked about like you rarely you go to a video game thing, and video games is something that a diverse group of people play, and you see like this 6'2" jock friends with this like 5'7" nerd.
Yeah.
And it's like this odd pairing
Exactly.
that wouldn't happen in like a standard high school situation.
Agreed.
And so I think extracurriculars like that are delightful, and I actually don't think they're emphasized enough.
No.
I don't think like
You're right. People don't know about that aspect of it.
yeah, and people are actually told like some schools will actually have you believe that television is evil.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I'm not saying that no one should ever get physical activity, but I think I find this is just my own personal pet peeve is that physical activity is emphasized over a lot of other things.
That's it. That's the cover.
And extracurriculars like this, I think oftentimes you'll find extra value and extra sort of more diverse value.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you.
And to close the show, I've decided actually that we're going to do very quickly the same thing we end the podcast with, which is I want each of you guys to recommend something, like something you've been watching lately, something you've been reading lately,
podcast.
to the audience. So, Penny, we'll get you started.
Something to recommend. Always Doctor Who, and even if you've watched the new episode, go back and watch the old episodes. Always watch it. Also Hannibal, because it needs more viewers. That's what I recommend.
Adam.
Besides Pacific Rim, which is everyone should go see that movie. It's a great action movie. Gravity Falls. It's the last episode of the first season is coming out next week. You can find the other episodes online illegally. And also on iTunes if you want to pay for money, which I do recommend. I'm not lying when I say it's better than Phineas and Ferb, and is the best thing that Disney has published or produced in quite some time. I put it up there with in terms of quality for TV show, like kids TV shows with like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, like that kind of show. It's
Right.
really damn good. Darn good.
I'll recommend that everybody catch up on all current 3 seasons of Lost Girl before the 4th one comes out. Because it ends in season 3, you want to find out what happens next. So, we got a clue up. I'll say you can listen to us on YouTube at youtube.com/The Aperture Show, and you can also email us at theaperture@gmail.com with there's a 3 replacing the first E in Aperture. Sorry about that. Theaperture@gmail.com is taken. Adam.
You can also follow us on www.facebook.com/The Aperture Show, uppercase A, uppercase T, uppercase A, lowercase s, no spaces. And you can follow us on Twitter at www.twitter.com/The Aperture Show, all lowercases, no spaces.
Okay, and thank you, Penny.
Yeah, thanks very much.
No problem.
coming in.
I'll be lending some pictures that I took for you guys to post as well.
Yeah, so we're
Perfect.
going to post that on our Facebook site
Yeah, okay.
as soon as possible.
Perfect. And I still believe there's no show on right after us on Saturday, so stay tuned for some nice music. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks.